If Villa was a symphony on vinyl, Leeds was that familiar broken record. We've won 2 games at home all season, so what do we expect against a form team? At this point, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is less a fortress and more of a ritzy spa. Thank God for Antonin Kinsky. 2 spectacular saves that kept us alive. That's surely it for Flappy. Please. RDZ was unhappy about our lack of patience, but he might also have mentioned having strikers with the clinical edge of a butter knife. Then there's Matisse Tel. He scored a worldie, then he lost his head while almost removing Amperdou's. He's like a brilliant paramedic who carefully loads you onto a stretcher, then drops you out of the helicopter. The fatalism of the fans is off the charts. Well, of course, we're Spurs. But look, it's still a point, which means West Ham have to win one of their last 2. And at least our next match is away. So take heart. We've got Room 101 for you and a new feature, Feet of Clay. Strap in. It's nice one, Cyril.
Nice one, Cyril.
So here we are. It's the morning after the night before. I'm Simon Lipson, a generally sound sleeper who was still staring at the ceiling at 4 a.m. last night, pondering reckless scissors kicks in your own penalty area. Julie Welch is here, an inveterate early riser and the First Lady of Football Writing, who's already churned out 3 chapters of the Spurs biography and a play, while most of us were hitting snooze. And Lee Brown, our resident thespian, who knows that real tragedy and comedy is sitting in the South Stand for 90 minutes. Welcome all. Well, look, here we are. It's a sort of an unusual morning recording for us, but for obvious reasons, we didn't record last night. Let's have a look into this Leeds match. Lee, it wasn't a bad performance, but it didn't quite have the elan, the smoothness, the patience of our Villa performance. And in the end, I don't think we can really complain about a draw. What's your take?
No, I think I would characterise it as committed, but by the same token, I would say it was also frenetic and tense. I think that sense was not only palpable in watching them play. You could see they were nervous at points, I thought, but also so were the crowd, and that was a kind of like a two-way process. Being there last night, I felt it was very edgy, very edgy.
I mean, luckily I missed the match because I've been suffering with the most horrendous stomach bug, and it felt like blessed relief. And I watched it at home and found it a very hard watch. I don't think we quite got into our stride, but at the same time we weren't poor. Julie, I don't know if you agree with this. I think we now, under De Zerbi, look a bit like a kind of a reasonably good mid-table side. An okay mid-table side, which is a massive improvement on where we were under Frank and particularly under our mate Tudor. And had we been playing like this earlier in the season, we wouldn't be in this shit. But it's unfortunate we've got to go from being a terrible side to being a good side. And that is a huge leap.
I think that what happened last night, I have to say, it was karma. I shouldn't have gloated about West Ham getting their goal chalked off because, it just came back to bite me, really. Yeah, I'd say I'd agree with you. We're what we could have been if it hadn't been for all the injuries, a decent mid-table side, going head-to-head with clubs like Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, for being upper mid-table rather than lower mid-table. We are slowly crawling out of the slump, but slowly is the word. I'm trying to comfort myself with the fact that, it was a point. We've got a point. We could be there. Do we need just one more point? I couldn't sleep last night like everybody. I was reduced to reading sort of romantic fiction at about 1 o'clock in the morning with a big cup of tea and some cocodamol to make myself sleep. It's just so bad, that we're now a club which has to rely on other clubs to do it for us. I just think we're a club which needs to have some self-respect, and we just don't have it at the moment. I thought when West Ham dropped those points that it was all over. I thought it was a given that we'd sail through the Leeds game, we'd have our 3 points, which would have meant that it was virtually all over. And it bloody isn't.
No, it does leave us all in this terrible kind of limbo, doesn't it, Lee? It's kind of, we've been here for a long time. And there was an element of relief when we got a win and West Ham, suddenly were behind us instead of ahead of us. So that felt good. We are another point further away from West Ham. So it's not all doom and gloom. West Ham have a couple of tricky games coming up, Newcastle and Leeds. So it's neither of those are a given, and you can imagine them losing one or t'other, or even drawing both, in which case we're safe. But it felt like last night, having gone ahead, that's an opportunity missed. We seem to retreat. We seem to let them come on at us, and I don't know. There was the old nerves playing a huge part.
You can choose the way that you sort of frame it and look at it. Before the Villa game, we would have said, get a draw there and a win against Leeds, and it's on. We're in a good position. We've done it in the reverse way, but doing it in the reverse way feels like a kick in the gut, because actually that was the game we thought we should be winning, and we so need a home win. I mean, when you think about it, I saw someone put a message out yesterday, which, okay, I know it's absurd, but it's about £650 a win that we've seen in that stadium this season. It's absolutely ludicrous.
It doesn't seem feasible, does it, Lee? Here we are turning up at the best stadium in the world week after week, and we never see our fucking team win a game. It's sort of become the thing that's dragging us down, because our away record is very good. And we come up next, Julie, against Chelsea. It was a bit of a bête noire for us, but at the same time, they'll be coming off the cup final. We hope that it goes to extra time and penalties, and that they suffer at least 16 serious injuries and 8 red cards. But still, it's Chelsea away. So it's still a tricky one. But if we win it, who knows?
I have a feeling that Spurs are so ridiculous this season that we might actually beat Chelsea. But Chelsea are like ants, you bop a few and there's more sort of streaming out of this sort of hole in the skirting board. So I'm not counting on that. But maybe I've just gone bonkers with all this. But I just thought, yeah, we're going to beat Chelsea. We'll put to bed the terrible memories of the Battle of the Bridge, Dembele trying to gouge Diego Costa's eyes out and all that sort of stuff. We'll kind of put to bed the memory of Ange's first season. They came to the lane and did us when we were sort of still in the kind of pole position near the top. It's amazing. I've obviously also got the 1981 cup final on my mind, because what Tel did was a sort of reverse Tommy Hutchison in a way. If you remember, Tommy Hutchison scored the goal in the first of the finals, and then thanks to Glenn's free kick, he headed in the equaliser. But Tel was a sort of reverse.
I was at that match, and my belief, because I love Glenn so much, was that he was aiming for Hutchinson's head and hit it at the exact angle he was trying for. So let's have a chat about Tel, Lee. He has been one of our bright sparks in recent times. He seemed to be unbothered by the tension and the pressure. He's just been trying to play his game. I felt last night he was a bit skittish. He was a bit trying too much. He was going for too many things, and he wasn't quite looking up as much as he should have been. And then, of course, I was getting slightly irritated with him. And then he scored a goal. It was such a beautiful trap and strike. opening his body and just curling it past the keeper. And then I forgave him everything. And then, of course, that moment of lunacy. What on earth was he thinking trying an overhead kick in his own penalty area?
I don't know if you saw Gareth Bale's comments, but he was adamant that that wasn't a penalty, that there was no way that he meant that. It was just the guy kind of saw him going for the bicycle kick and sort of threw himself at the ball, probably expecting that outcome. I mean, it was silly to be doing a bicycle kick in your own area, but he's just turned 20, and I think De Zerbi said this yesterday, really, when in his press conference, just saying, look, he's just going to give him a hug and a kiss, and he's a young man, and young men make mistakes. This is the sort of thing that, in a few years' time that he'll get out of his system, but he's a big talent. And I agree with him, he is a big talent. But and there will be things about his game that are frustrating because he's still, a boy, really, isn't he? I wouldn't be part of the pylon for that. He scored us a goal and cost us a goal, but at the end of the day, none of this is on any individual, like it wasn't on Danso. This is about our season overall and how we've been overall. And actually, I don't know what you think about this, but I'm not sure these tifos and big flames on the pitch at the start actually do anything to help us. Moreover, I think they sort of pile the pressure on the situation and the players personally.
Yeah, I felt that about the big coach welcome against Forest. It kind of made the game bigger than it needed to be in the heads of the players, and it creates an atmosphere of I don't know, even foreboding. Christ, we really got to turn up instead of relaxing and playing your game. So let's have a little chat, Julie, about your mate Flappy. Now, it seems to me.
Who's he? I've forgotten
I know.
him.
It just seems to me we've seen the last of Flappy. God help us. I don't want to see him again. We'll always have Bilbao, right? I've said that last week. We'll always have that save. But Kinsky is a remarkable young man. He's 23 or 4. He had an absolute nightmare, the kind of nightmare that can destroy any footballer, never mind a keeper.
You only have to look back at, the extent to which he's actually overcome that memory. Loris Karius had that nightmare for Liverpool a few years back and never played for Liverpool again. And it was precisely the level of that kind of incompetence, well, not incompetence, but the level of disaster that Kinsky suffered against Atleti. And to come back, this guy has just got balls of steel, basically. I think that's true. I think I've pointed out at the time the way that 3 of his teammates actually, as Kinsky went off, was taken off, left for the dressing room, head down, absolutely stricken. And Palhinha and a couple of others, I don't quite remember off the top of my head who they were, actually followed him into the dressing room. And I thought then, this team are actually behind the boy. And I think that's true. I think they are behind Kinsky in a way that they haven't been behind Flappy, because Flappy is just, has always been just so unpredictable.
That's the thing with Flappy, isn't it? That we've said it earlier on in lots of pods that he unnerves our defence, if anything, because his kicking's terrible. He always looks a bit shaky on the deck, and even when he's coming for corners, and God knows, or he doesn't even bother coming for them, and it's a bit scary. Whereas Lee, here's this kid who's shown incredible gumption by doing what he's done. Let's talk about those 2 saves. The first one was in the first half, and that was a remarkable stop on his own line from Rodon's header, and he got his hand on it and held on to it. The second one at the end, I didn't actually think was as good a save, frankly, because it was a pure reaction, which it was brilliant. Of course it was, but I thought the first one was about not just stopping it but hanging on to it, and he got up straight away. No, he didn't make any fuss about it, and was looking to set the team on going forward again. And I do think this is a special young man and a special player.
That save, the first one, was like a Gordon Banks type bloody save, wasn't it? The way he got down to that was absolutely incredible, because I looked around me when we looked at each other in like amazement and wonderment what we just seen. That was an incredible save. He must have been unsighted as well. and his reactions to it were first class. And that's the sort of qualities that we've sort of lauded Vicario with. He might not be good with his feet and he might not be good with crosses, but he's a good shot stopper. Actually, what Vicario did yesterday is prove that he can do both. His distribution is much better. The way he baits the press works well for us. I think he's much more of a deserving keeper. Whether he'll be the number one next season, I do still have my doubts, but it would be wonderful if we gave him that chance, and I think he deserves it because he's shown incredible courage to come back from that, as Julie pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about Trafford from Man City coming and various other goalkeepers we've had to Google. But I don't know whether this guy has earned the right to at least be given the opportunity next season. He certainly seems to me in for the rest of this season. Flappy hasn't got a chance of coming back.
I mean, to me, he combines the elasticity of Lloris with, the kicking of a decent goalkeeper. I think they'd be mad not to make him our main keeper.
I remember Toby Alderweireld used to say that he was a footballer first and a defender second. And he said, you've got to be able to play football to be able to play in any position. And I thought that's perceptive, that. And if you look at Kinsky, you could imagine him playing outfield, can't you? I mean, he looks like he's 2-footed, he's calm, he's cool. I put him up front instead of Richie. And that brings me on nicely. What a segue.
Segue.
What a segue. Let's talk about our front men. Muani laboured hard, and you can't really fault his application. Richie, also, you got what you normally expect from Richie, except absolutely no goal threat. There was one moment in the second half where he was on a run with a Leeds defender. I actually thought the Leeds defender slowed up to let him catch him up, but he couldn't catch him up. He was too slow. He does look really lumbering. There was a moment in the first half, wasn't there, when Porro played one of his rare good balls through and he didn't collect it properly and the chance was gone. I mean, Lee, it is a problem we've got. Doesn't look like Solanke's coming back. And it makes you appreciate Solanke, by the way, because he's fast and he's got good footwork. I think the difference between him and Richie is Richie will shoot on sight if he could control the fucking ball, whereas Solanke is a bit more careful. But it's a problem. We've got 2 games. We've probably got to score some goals in those games. How the hell are we going to do it? There's nothing on the bench.
Well, last night there were a number of chances that he should have buried, and because the chances came to him. And we're just looking at each other again around us going, how the fuck did he not score those? I mean, there were awful misses. And he is the sort of player that you think on an instinct type thing, in those chances that he tucks them away. He is our top scorer after all, with only about 8 or 9 goals. But the trouble is, if he's got the ball and he's running with the ball, or he's got time to think about it, we said this before, he's about as much use as an ashtray and a motorbike, isn't he? He's absolutely hopeless in that kind of situation. Although we've said before he's the dog for this fight because he's just got something about him. But he's not calm under pressure, and he's not he's not clinical in that way. That's something we're going to massively have to look at next season and address, because none of them, and I include Solanke, are good enough up top. We are pretty blunt.
Yeah, completely blunt. It's interesting because Julie, this morning on our WhatsApp group, you were saying that somebody on your other WhatsApp group was commenting that Richie's the worst forward they've ever seen in the shirt. I think that's a bit extreme. I think Andy Booth was worse, and Ian Moores was probably on a par. Look, it's not fair. I mean, he's scored goals that have mattered, but as Lee says, he's not good enough.
Well, I gave you a line this morning, which I know you'll be eager to air. Richie is everything but the goal at the moment. I will say in his defence that if it weren't for Richie this season, we'd be down already because he's our top scorer. He's also getting on a bit, his legs aren't what they were. all the faults he brought to his game when he arrived, they've just got a bit worse. I still think, I think he's smashing, he's really committed. He's and he's our only hope at the moment. If you're going to talk about the worst strikers ever to play for Spurs, I mean, you only have to say Postiga, don't you? Somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, actually, they are legion, aren't they? So, we could name many, probably worse than Richie. In fact, I tell you what, in the summer, during the summer break, I was going to say between Premier League and Championship, but no, I'm not going to be negative. But we will do a show on the best and worst players in various positions at Spurs over the years. Let's move on a little bit here. Wasn't it good, Lee, to see Maddison get back on the pitch? He looked quite lively. I'm slightly concerned to learn afterwards that he told De Zerbi that, he had about 10 minutes in his legs or whatever, because he ended up playing about, with extra time, quite a lot more than that. And he looked quite lively till the end. And did he win a penalty? Didn't he? Let's talk about that in a second. But I wonder if that is the little potential game changer we need to see us through the last couple of matches.
It could be. I hope so, because he is that creative player that we've missed since what's his name now? The other guy, Simmons. He's gone now. Yeah, that's it. I've forgotten him already.
They're all gone. They're all gone.
Yeah, that's it. But I think there's a lot of pressure on him. And he got a great reception when he came on, but there's an awful lot of expectation that he will be the Messiah now and lead us out of this. And I think that's a lot to heap on the shoulders of someone who's just come back from a really big injury. But you never know. I mean, like last night, there was some glimpses. He probably crapped himself when the 13 minutes went up on the board, and because he didn't have that in his legs. But that said, that was close to being a penalty. I mean, if it was Arsenal, it would have been given, I'm sure.
It's that old conspiracy, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We hate Spurs. Yeah. Well, Lucioli, let's have a look at that penalty. On live, it looked plausible. You watch it a few times over and you think, well, all right, did the player get it? Even if he got it, the defender, he took Maddison out. I don't know. We don't expect to get anything. And keep reading about, well, we haven't had a penalty all season. Well, you've got to earn a fucking penalty. I mean, you can't just be given a penalty just because everyone else gets penalties. But what was your reaction to that?
I'm sanguine about it. The defender got a foot to it. There was so much controversy over various pens earlier in the season. I thought there's no way that this guy's going to give it, and so it turned out that. Well, look, the one thing I would like to mention, going back to Maddison in another form, is that the hug that was given by Daniel Farke, because of course they were together at Norwich. It was Farke who developed him as a player. So I mentioned this to my best mate Perryman this morning, and he went chuntering off about, all this hugging and cuddling in the tunnel, bring back Bill and Eddie and all that stuff. I thought it was a very touching moment, actually.
I love that Neanderthal, kind of attitude of the players of the past. Yeah, don't hug and kiss, you shake hands and move on. Let's have a little. Interesting, you mentioned there about the penalty and the non-penalty that the defender got his foot there first. Lee, I mean, you could argue that Ampadu got his head to the ball before he got a whack in the head from that flailing Tel boot. So I don't really understand what's a penalty, what isn't a penalty. And of course, VAR just leaves us in a greater quandary than we've ever been in. We talk about that. What about the West Ham Arsenal VAR? And there was so much fouling and shoving and pushing going on ahead of that. I don't know. It's complicated matters out of all proportion now.
I mean, you're going to hate my guts now, because I'm going to lean into, it's not a conspiracy theory, but I do think that all the fuss over what happened and the controversy over what happened with the penalty, the goal that was or was not with the grappling, has fed into the narrative around this, and it made people edgy. And I thought the ref last night was appalling, and I thought the VAR decisions were questionable. I know we always think this, but even De Zerbi picked up on it last night in his press conference, saying he thinks not 100%, but 200% this played into the mindset of them making a decisions and trying to get it right, in inverted commas. And I think they overthought it, and it's played some part in it, I think. But there you go. I mean, but at the end of the day, you still got to win your matches, and you can't rely on these decisions. So you just got to take it on the chin, haven't you?
You have. I mean, just looking at the two incidents last night, the ref didn't give a penalty live, as it were. He didn't give a penalty for the Tel overhead lunacy thing, and he didn't give a penalty for Maddison's little dive. And that, for me, is how we should have continued, right? But the problem with VAR, I mean, there are lots of problems with VAR, Julie, but it's this over-finessing. It's this looking for the minutiae of incidents. And frankly, you could probably find a reason to disallow 80% of goals if you really want to. And I wonder if we're just getting to the point now where, we've talked about this many times, this stripping football of its passion and its spontaneity with this desperate desire to finesse everything to the point of ruination.
I'm full on conspiracy theory about this, I have to say, because, it gives Jamie Carragher and Jamie Redknapp something to talk about. And that's all it is. It's just sort of, it's a way for whichever company owns the rights to prolong the agony. Having watched football for years and years and years, because I'm so old, I've seen terrible injustices occur. But, that's what happens. They've been in our favour, they've been against us. I just think it all evens out. And now there's this bloody VAR thing. You can't celebrate a goal because you might get the kick up the arse. It's not going to stand. To be honest, I really hate it. It puts me off football, either being there or watching it on the box. There's no continuity. I'm gibbering again. Please blame my early night. But
well, listen, you gibber away. It's I think you're entitled to gibber, and I think we all are, because I think VAR it's the ruination of the game for me. And
yes,
I think the only bit of tech that I would welcome is the goal line technology, because I think that's very important. But beyond that, you're still in the hands, Lee, aren't you, of people who are not. They're trying to be objective, but nothing about football is objective. You're having to make a judgment.
I'm nodding sagely, Simon.
You're looking very sage, actually, this morning. Yeah.
Well, I'll be onion then in that case. So, terrible dad joke. I do agree. It has to go. If we did go down to the Championship, ironically, that would probably be one of the benefits. We wouldn't have to put up with VAR anymore. I don't know. Where do we start? It just spoils the game. If we could get rid of it, but we won't, because they've invested so much money in the technology that it's here to stay, unfortunately. And it just feels like it adds to, like Julie was saying about it all being a product. It adds to the kind of ability to manufacture the drama, and of course it's subjective, because, as you say, Simon, there are an infinite amount of ways to disallow everything. Even in that the controversial game the other day with the West Ham game, there were about 10 fouls that were going on that box at that time. Yeah. Which one counted? I mean, it's preposterous. So you paid your money, make your choice, I suppose.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, moving on a bit, I am very concerned, Julie, about the mindset of some of our fans. I really am. We covered this before. Here's a tweet that came in this week. I don't care what anybody says, but I'll be supporting West Ham this weekend versus Arsenal. Brackets. Draw is ideal. Close brackets. It's not like I want Spurs to go down. If we win our games, we won't, regardless of the West Ham Arsenal result. I just can't get myself to want Arsenal to win the league. This dildo has got 22,000 followers. Now, look, imagine not wanting them to win the league, trumping your desire for Spurs to stay up. I'd rather be playing champions Arsenal home and away next season than fucking Wrexham. I don't understand this mindset.
It's because I think I don't know the age of the person who posted that. Probably, what would you say, in their teens, something like that, has probably sort of taken an interest in football since, I don't know, yesterday. To be honest, Simon, I don't know why you read these tweets.
I'm filling time. What do you think?
I think it'd be even more delicious, actually, if we stayed up because of that, and that's
Yes, yeah.
Arsenal has saved us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Lee, you're much more into the Gooner rivalry than I am. I don't care about Arsenal. I never have. I know people don't believe me. I just don't care about Arsenal. They just happen to be the team nearest to our ground. And so what? I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but you hate the Gooners. I know most of our contributors absolutely detest the Gooners, but this is a step too far, isn't it?
No. It's never too far. Not with that bunch of tosslers. Of course it's not. Don't be silly, Simon.
All right, let's go down as long as they don't win the league then. Good stuff. All right. Some absolute bollocks going around on the transfer front. We hear that Van de Ven has had a change of heart, right? And he will stay if we stay up. Someone said on Twitter, my information is that he's extremely open to staying. That's his information, by the way. Julie, you've just mentioned that these people who tweet this kind of shit are probably teenage morons, but that's saying nothing. He knows nothing. No one knows anything. We're in the middle of a relegation scrap. Van de Ven hasn't said anything. In fact, Van de Ven, as far as I'm aware, said, there's all this shit going around social media about me and what I'm doing and what's happening. I've not said anything. And as far as I know, he hasn't.
What do you want me to say, Simon? Do you want me to?
I want you to.
I don't think you kind of focus the point to an extent.
I want you to tell me I'm right. Tell me that I'm right, and we can move on.
All right, Simon, you're always right. I've never known you say a wrong word or make a wrong move. Will that do?
Bless you. You can come back on the show next week. All right, look, let's have a little bit of Room 101. What have we got this week, Lee?
I'm going to put Vinai and Lange in Room 101, not just because we all hate their guts now, but for putting us in the invidious and outrageous position of having to hope that Arsenal win, because how humiliating. I mean, and it's their inept management of our transfer activity that's led us to being where we are now, underprepared and overworked with many of the players, which is why we're faltering at the moment. So stick them in there, lock the door, and don't give them any food.
I do think, I might be wrong in saying this, but I think they were already in there.
Oh, were they?
Yes.
Okay. Can you put them back in? Can you take them out and put them back in then?
Right, so...
I think we should
do.
Tease them, bring them out for a bit, thinking they're going to escape.
Yeah, give them some hope, and then dash it. That's it. That's perfect. All right, Julie, what have you got for Room 101?
I think this is also a repeat viewing. I'm going to put the stadium in Room 101. I want White Hart Lane back. We never had any of this shit when we played at the old lane. Well, we did, but that was years back. It's been just... in terms of what's happened to us since we moved into the new stadium, it's just been a disaster, hasn't it? The craziness of Mourinho and Conte, nothing's ever worked. Okay, we managed to pick up one kind of bit of silverware, but that was just random. That was just, a black swan, as far as I'm concerned. And I, as I say, I think we've put the stadium in 101 before, but let's get it out of the bin. Just sort of sneer at it and put it back in. It's the architect of all our problems. It's a lovely kind of graveyard.
Just to say that, also, I think we're just it's such a lovely stadium that it's too nice for the opposition. So I think we need to make sure that we give them freezing cold showers and some of the sausage rolls from the Spurs stadium, That will fuck them up.
Yeah, also bring back the communal bath in the away dressing room with cold
Excellent.
water. They can all pick up verrucas and things like that.
Excellent. Outstanding work. Well done, both of you. I just got this. It's not really Spurs related. It's the week before last, I think it was. Ben White of your favourite team, Lee. He walked on the Atletico badge, right, which was strewn across the floor on the way to the dressing room. He walked on it, and Diego Simeone got very, very agitated about him disrespecting the Atletico badge. And then we had Arsenal putting their stupid bit of shit down on the floor, and Atletico players walking on this. Look, first of all, if you stick it on the floor on the way to the dressing room, blocking everyone's entrance to the dressing room, it's going to get walked on. Tough shit. It's going to get walked on. Can I also say it is not a sacred artifact? It's a fucking bit of polythene that's been printed with the badge of some team. It's walk on it. Walk on that fucking stupid badge. I don't care. If you put it there, it's there to be walked on. It's a doormat. And that is going in from 101. I'm done. Now then, stupid tweets.
Agreed.
I like this one. Tottenham Hotspur, Aston Villa, and Leeds United have made internal checks over a potential move for attacker Leo Cienza from Southampton. Internal checks. Julie? They haven't externalised their checking yet. It's internal.
Is that a colonoscopy?
It could be.
An enema.
It could well be. Yeah. Here's another useful tweet. Tottenham Hotspur have decided on Radu Dragusin's future amid interest from 3 European clubs, sparking debate over whether Spurs should keep or sell the £21.5 million defender. So I think we're all much the wiser for that bit of info. I was going to read another one of these lunatic pro West Ham tweets and anti-Arsenal tweets, but I won't. Here's the last one. And this is really, this could have gone in my room 101, this one. Calling all my Tottenham followers some sad and tragic news. A friend of ours sadly lost their life. So in the 38th minute, we would like to do a round of applause in memory of him against Leeds. Repost and share and spread the word, guys. Look, this is private grief. This is private loss. And I'm sorry for your loss. But fuck off. Okay? Because this is not about your friend. It's about you. It's about you getting everyone to clap your friend. Look, can I just tell you something? My beautiful, beautiful cat, Cosmo, disappeared last week. And we believe he was found dead last week over the road. We can't confirm it because someone stuck him in a bin. But we believe that was him. Don't laugh, Julie. And I love that cat.
I'm making the horror face.
Okay. Genuinely, I worship that cat. He was an absolute personality. And I'm going to put a tweet out for a round of applause at the Everton game on 2 minutes because he was 2. And I hope everybody will partake in my private loss and grief. There we go. Now then, we've got a new feature
this today. Carry on.
We've got a new feature today, haven't we? Feet of Clay. This is where someone who perhaps might have been a hero to us turns out to be an absolute dick, or something broader than that. Julie, what have you got for us?
Well, I have to say, because Gareth Bale to me is one of the greatest players ever to have worn our shirt. Fabulous player. He gave us some brilliant memories, but it's just when I went to interview him, well, yeah, he was a bit of a dick. He was ungracious. I mean, maybe he just sort of wasn't interested in being interviewed by, an old bat or something like that. But it was one of the sort of most disappointing interviews or encounters I've ever had, really, because, I was so excited to meet him. And yeah, he was just a bit of a twat. So for me, Gareth Bale, feet of clay, sadly.
Did he start every sentence with, yeah? Well, yeah, because that's all he seems to do when he's doing interviews. He just starts every sentence with yeah, and then gives you something really bland.
Oh, well,
Uh,
we're talking. This is early Bale when you
oh,
know
this is
he was
is
red.
this sticking out ears, Bale?
No, I think by then he'd I don't know. I mean, we're talking kind of 2012, something like that, maybe
Oh,
2011. So
he was a
yeah,
boy. Come on.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can
Well,
forgive him.
yeah, but I mean, at that age, Kinsky is sort of making these balls of steel save. You know,
True,
he's not
true.
being shitty to a journalist.
I rather like Bale because with all the razzmatazz and bullshit surrounding his career, particularly at Real Madrid, he just wanted to be an ordinary bloke going about his business, playing golf. He didn't want to buy into any of that shit. And I think that's great. He stayed pretty humble and ordinary, which is good for him. Now, look, Lee, what have you got for us on Feet of Clay?
Just quickly on your point where all footballers start with they also start with no. And they say
Yes, they
both, don't
do.
they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, crazy. But, okay, mine is Lucas Moura, who, of course, is the hero of Ajax game, where we went through to the final. But turns out he's a bit of a right-wing Christian nutter and
Yes.
supports a lot of those kind of very dubious right-wing views, which he's had to row back on a few times to try and cover his tracks. But yeah, he's also privately doubled down on a lot of that kind of Bolsonaro rhetoric, which is homophobic and not the views that most right-minded people would subscribe to, I posit.
Good shout. Good shout. Lucas Moura, Feet of Clay. I've got one, Edgar Davids. So he came to us in 2005, and it was a kind of a pinch me, wasn't it? You know, God, he's come to Spurs. It was Klinsmann-esque. He was a Champions League winner, a legend in his orange goggles, and he chose us. But he was shit. He was so bad. He was past it. Didn't make a pass. I think he scored one goal. Worse, when he left Spurs, he became the player manager of Barnet, where he gave himself the number 1 shirt as a midfielder. He then got sent off 3 times in 8 games, and he refused to go to away matches that required an overnight stay, and then he quit. So, prima donna, idiot, dickhead, and that is a legacy besmirched by arrogance. There we are. I've said my bit. All right, look, we're coming towards the end of the show. Next up is Chelsea, which is next bloody Tuesday, which gives us the slight issue of, well, do we record the show on Monday? Do we wait till Wednesday? I don't know. It's a big admin issue, but let's assume we're not recording on Monday ahead of that game. Julie, Chelsea away. Oh.
I've already perorated about this. Then in my madness, I'm so unhinged by what Spurs have done to me over the past few weeks and months that I think we might beat Chelsea. I have no justification at all for saying this. I can't back it up with any facts whatsoever. So, it's just pie in the sky, really. But I think we might beat Chelsea. Something,
Okay.
with something ridiculous, like a Richarlison goal.
Yeah, I think you really are in the realms of fantasy there, Julie. It seems so unlikely. Lee?
Yeah, I'm not so optimistic. It's despite the fact that our away form is actually tremendous. We're in the top 3 if on away form. They will have the game of their season with the prospect of being able to brag that they were one of the teams that really sent us down. They will turn up like never before. They always do when we come to play them. They hate us. Their fans hate us. If there's anything that this team can do, which looks like it's going to have a bit of a crap season by their standards, if they beat us in this relegation run-in, it will be enough to appease their fans at the end of the season, I think. So having said that, I think we might get a draw.
Okay. And of course, it's worth mentioning that West Ham play ahead of us at Newcastle at the weekend. So we might have a clearer idea of what's needed, because it could be if West Ham lose, we need a point from our last 2 games. So look, it's not all doom and gloom. I think we might win that, weirdly. I don't know why. I'm just talking shit on a Tuesday morning. All right, look, my thanks to Lee and to Julie. You can follow us on social media, well, on Twitter anyway, at Nice One Cyril Pod. Why not have a pop over to our website, www.niceonecyrilpodcast.co.uk. All of our episodes feature on there, and plus lots of other gubbins besides, and a picture of Lee and one of Julie, for that matter. And what else? Yes, why don't you subscribe or give us a follow on the podcast platform of your choosing, and you'll never miss an episode. There we are. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your company. Come on, you Spurs.
Nice one, Cyril.